Welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the producer and co-host, and Gen Genie Jr., hopefully someday graduating to Gen Genie Senior.
Gen Genie.
So, I mean, I was a freshman, sort of, and maybe I'm probably a sophomore.
Sophomoric.
So, yeah, sophomoric is quite accurate, actually. I'm a Gen Genie sophomore. So, listen, I went to my brother's birthday party the other day.
How was it?
Oh, we had such a nice time.
How old is he now?
God love him. He's 53 years old. He's my older brother.
He's older than you.
Yes. Everyone thinks he's younger because my brother, as you know, has Down syndrome. And so he looks younger. You know, he's physically smaller than I am. But when we were growing up, people used to think we were twins, you know, because we were like when we were little kids.
Yeah.
And also my grandmother owned a clothing store. And so she would get us the same outfits and we would be dressed the same. Of course we were. But anyway, you know, the interesting story about this is that when my brother was born, they told my mother, the doctor, the people at the hospital said that he wouldn't live past 5 and that she should give him up.
Wait, because he had Down syndrome?
Yes.
But
I don't know exactly, but my guess is that perhaps at the time the mortality rate was
higher.
Yes,
okay.
and I don't think it was anything medical. Quite frankly, I think it was just that a lot of these kids were put into institutions where they did not get the kind of care that they needed, and my mom did not choose to do that.
Thank God.
Yes, and you know, Philip has thrived, and quite frankly, he's had such a life of love, and every person with Down syndrome that I've ever met
are most loving people.
Yeah,
yes.
It's almost like they don't have it in them to be cruel, like they don't know how. You know, it's really weird, right?
That's really true.
And to me, sometimes I think maybe that's why they were put here on this earth. You know, to show us that.
To teach us.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was really nice. And I always think of that. You know, here he is 53 years old and he wasn't supposed to live past 5, but a lot of love and care. And also, you know, he was, of course, they couldn't have known it as a baby, but he's high functioning, you know.
Yeah, okay.
So, but anyway, for those of you out there that know about Down syndrome, it's caused by a third copy of chromosome number 21. So it's really
the kindness chromosome.
Is that what it is? Maybe it is. You get a little extra dose of kindness. Anyway, happy birthday, Phil. He's a sweetheart.
Happy birthday, Philip.
I don't think he listens to this. He's more into like Batman and wrestling.
Frankly, I don't blame him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yay. I love it.
What's going on with you, Julie?
Oh, so much.
Hey, how was your Mother's Day?
It was a Mother's Day. It was a day about mothers. Okay, so my husband was out of town, as is my... Wait, was he out of town?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Because he was out of town on my birthday.
How dare he go out of town for Mother's Day?
No, I was thinking back to my birthday. You know what I did? Okay, wait. No, my husband, he's amazing. Of course, my daughter is not here. She's in college.
Yes.
And she's the one who usually facilitates getting up early to make breakfast and all that.
Yes.
Whereas my son does not quite have that motivation. And he closed a show the night before. And so, of course, at 11:30 at night, he goes to my husband and says, "Oh, what are we going to do for Mother's Day?"
Right?
Well, bud, you should have thought of that before. So he was kind enough. So he got Beckett up to make me breakfast in bed, as is the way every year. And then while I was having breakfast in bed, talking to my son, my husband went out and went to Fry's Electronics and bought me a new set of headphones that I asked for.
Wow.
A new set of recording headphones, and came in. And I didn't even know he'd been gone. You know, and that's huge for my husband because he does not like to sleep or to wake up before 9.
I was going to say he doesn't like to sleep in a bed of crumbs, and that's why the breakfast in bed was a big sacrifice.
Yeah, right.
That's one of the reasons I don't like to eat breakfast in bed. Not that it's ever been served to me, but I just don't like food in bed.
You get a vacuum. You get a dustbuster.
I can barely stand the fact that there's dog hair in my bed, and my dog doesn't even sleep in the bed. There's just always dog hair everywhere.
Well, that sounds like a different problem to me.
Maybe it's my hair.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But I made a quilt. I made my first quilt.
Ooh, you're a quilter.
I am now. Well, I'm a crafter. I do everything.
Yes.
You know, that
You're
I can.
quite crafty, Julie.
I'm quite the crafty one. I'm the crafty genie. But I, got a bee in my bonnet, and of course, YouTube is the best place to learn anything. And I found a YouTube tutorial that says your first quilt, how to make your first quilt. So I made a quilt over the weekend.
It was that fast that you're able to make a quilt in a weekend?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I'm kind of that person, like once I get started on something, I can't stop and I have to go until it's finished.
Oh my God.
So it wasn't a full-size quilt. It was like a baby quilt.
Yeah.
Like a crib quilt.
And who was that for?
Oh, I have 2 friends that are pregnant right now, actually.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
Did you quilt you didn't quilt any names on it or anything, so
It was my first quilt, Rich.
you're not that advanced yet?
Not quite, but I will be.
Well, when you join a quilting bee, then I'll know you're serious.
I'm never going to join a quilting bee.
Then you're never going to be serious.
I'm not, but I'm not serious about anything, Rich.
What's going on in DNA news,
Hey,
Julie?
you know what's going on? Let's go to the corner, first of all.
Corrections.
that corner?
Clarifications and or corrections corner.
CC corner.
CC.
So regarding pre-marriage blood tests, remember we were talking about that a few weeks ago?
Oh, yes.
Why exactly did we have to do pre-marriage blood tests?
Yes.
Karen Webster wrote, she believed they were taken to test for the RH factor, not to see if the couple was related.
And what does that mean, the RH factor?
I don't know.
Oh,
Hold
dear.
on. If I click on it, I should have...
Are we going to have a correction for the correction?
Wait, I'm going to the page.
Are we having a clarification for the correction?
Okay, rhesus factor, and it's RH factor. Maybe in Australia they call it rhesus factor.
Okay.
Each blood type is also further identified by a plus or minus sign. The plus or minus sign refers to the presence or absence of a substance in the blood known as the rhesus factor, so named because it was the first discovered in rhesus monkeys. Oh.
So it's some kind of disease that they're looking for. Is that
Yes,
it?
most people are rhesus positive, but if a rhesus negative person receives Rh positive blood, their body reacts, making chemicals, antibodies, to defend against the foreign rhesus factor. This is similar to the way we make antibodies to various viruses, such as rubella, chickenpox. During pregnancy or at birth, when the placenta comes away from the wall of the uterus, some blood cells from the baby's circulation sometimes make their way into the mother's bloodstream. This is normal and for most women not a problem. However, it becomes significant for women who have Rh negative blood. If the baby is Rh positive, blood inherited from the father, mother's body may treat the baby's blood cells as a foreign substance and produce antibodies against them.
Oh, okay.
So it has to do with if one parent is Rh positive and one is Rh negative. So were they not allowed to get married?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, if
Okay,
they were...
I'm going to Google that. No,
Well,
I
no,
won't.
but if
I'll
they
come
were
back to it.
testing for that, I would assume it might mean that, it was a government
That they were incompatible.
Right, that maybe you can't get married,
Okay,
And
that's
it was in the interest
obviously
of
going to be
health.
another correction.
Well, no, but it was in the interest of the health of a future child and the mother.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because if she were to have a baby...
Well, it'd be the baby that it would... Oh, no.
No, it was the mother.
You're right.
The baby has, the blood of the two of them. And
So, I certainly should have looked that up already. But luckily, there was a clickable link. So
Well,
that
thank
was
you.
only the first answer. I got another answer.
Oh, my Lord.
Catherine Herndon says here in Oklahoma, it was a syphilis test, and it was only discontinued in 2004.
Yeah, but syphilis wasn't discontinued then. Nobody told syphilis this news.
I guess you reap what you sow.
Maybe they figured that syphilis is treatable, and maybe it wasn't at one time. I don't know. It was much more serious. I mean, I'm sure it still can be serious, but I think if it's caught early enough, can't you treat syphilis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of famous people in history that had syphilis.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were syphilitic.
Yes.
Right? You always hear
right.
that, and they went mad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Henry VIII, I think.
Was he syphilitic?
I don't know. I may have just made that up. You know what? I think he was diabetic.
How do you know that?
Because he was famous for having a sore in his leg that never healed. That is very much a diabetic issue. And he was very overweight and ate very unhealthily. I'm sure he lost his mind when he was older because of all that.
Well, better to lose your mind than lose your head like all his wives.
Wah, wah, wah. Only 6 of them.
Only 6.
No, 6 wives of Henry VIII. Only 4 lost their heads.
But did he ever find a woman to produce a male heir for him?
Yes, but the male heir died. Oh. Ooh, by the way, there's a new, on Starz, there's a new series called The Spanish Queen, which is about Catherine of Aragon, who was Henry VIII's first wife.
Oh, interesting.
Just putting that out there for all you Anglophiles. Another Philippa Gregory book. All right, so that was Corrections Corner, I believe. Yeah, that's it. There's probably more. And, of course, on the next time we record, there's going to be more conversation about the RH factor, obviously, because there's clearly more to it.
Yes, we will get back to you on that, folks.
Yep. And one more thing before we take a break. The Ancestry messaging system, remember I mentioned that a few weeks ago they were going to have a new messaging system?
Yes, and it was a good idea.
It's a great idea, but I have not seen anything else about it since I heard that, and I thought maybe it was a false flag.
Huh.
I posted about it on one of the Ancestry DNA pages, and somebody responded that it is in beta, so all the new users have it now.
Okay.
Already. So if anybody has it, please contact me and tell me how it is. The last people that are going to get it are people who use the folders system in the current messaging system. And I do that, or I used to. So because I used that benefit, I'm the last one to get the new one.
You're a late adapter.
Yes.
Forcibly so.
I'm wondering if I delete all those folders, maybe I'll get it sooner.
I would look that up before I do that.
Probably, but I don't really, those folders were old.
Yeah.
Life has changed so much since I started those folders.
So you don't need that. You have that information elsewhere now? Or you just don't need that information anymore?
You know what? I can just forget that information at this point.
Can you
I've
archive
moved
it
on.
somewhere, like just in case you ever need to refer back to it? Because to me, as soon as I throw something away, I'm like, oh my God, I needed that.
That's why I don't throw 80s clothes away.
They're back, actually.
I know.
The trouble is, I don't fit into my 80s clothes anymore.
My daughter, I for years tried to get her to have my old clothes and she wouldn't have them. And now all she likes is 80s clothes.
Well, see what happens?
Yeah.
But the trouble is, it's not just that it doesn't fit anymore, is that when I was in the 80s, I was 30 years younger. And so I wore things that for a young man that would look ridiculous on a middle-aged man.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I still try, though.
I want to see you in the Jane Fonda leg warmers and the...
I rocked that look back in the day.
I remember. I was there, Julie.
You were there. Good times.
Shall we take a break?
Yes, please.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now, back to Julie and me.
Okay, we're back.
Hello.
Hello there. So there were, everyone was up in arms again for the last couple of weeks regarding an issue that happened with GEDmatch.
Oh, I'm not privy to this issue.
I figured not. So
I don't have my finger on the pulse of GEDmatch technology.
Pulse. So GEDmatch posted this announcement just on their main page that we've talked about people having privacy issues when it comes to law enforcement accessing people's DNA to look for criminals.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
So this update said on November 17th, 2018, a 71-year-old church organist was violently attacked while practicing alone in her church. The police contacted Parabon Nanolabs, which is what Cece Moore leads.
Yes.
Seeking help, but Parabon declined to take the case because it did not meet the rape or murder definition in GEDmatch. GEDmatch previously allowed them to use it if it was about rape or murder.
And what was this?
This was...
just a violent attack that wasn't rape.
Yes, this was a violent attack.
So there was no sexual component to it. It was just somebody getting,
Right. We were later contacted by the police detective working the case. After hearing the very violent details of this case, we offered Parabon permission to look for a match at GEDmatch. They accepted our offer and took the case. As a result of leads generated from a DNA match on GEDmatch, in April 2019, the suspect was arrested and charged. There are those who believe that we have betrayed the trust of those who have uploaded their DNA to GEDmatch. GEDmatch made an exception to policy in this case because police made a compelling argument that this offender could pose a serious public safety risk. We encourage GEDmatch users to express their opinions on law enforcement use of GEDmatch and genetic genealogy to produce leads.
Well, I think they handled that rather well, actually.
Right, but a lot of the people who don't like it in the first place were not happy about it because it was done after the fact. They like fessed up to it instead of asking permission.
Well, I mean, they shouldn't ask permission, right?
Well, basically, it's changing the terms of service again.
Oh, I see.
And people didn't have informed consent. Because the difference is now it's about not murderers and rapists, but about violent offenders. So,
Right. I get it. Like, to me, I think, yes, you want to catch this dangerous person before he does it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And, but I understand people are very conscious of their privacy and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't really have a problem with that.
Well,
Isn't
I don't
that funny?
either. I don't.
I know,
That's
but
funny.
I've also been
Yeah.
leaning more toward the we need to be careful with that, especially with law enforcement,
Right.
because of the misuse of materials. Even like before DNA technology, there was always mix-ups and things like that. With,
Right.
And you don't want that. You would never want someone to be wrongly convicted based on something like that.
Correct.
But I don't know. This sounds pretty.
There's an update.
Oh, let's hear
There's
it.
an update to it. So a
Oh,
couple
I didn't know I
days
could
ago,
get my voice that high. Woo!
a couple days ago, GEDmatch posted something else. And it said
April
this.
Fools, we're just kidding.
JK. Effective immediately, all DNA kits have been set to be opted out of matching by law enforcement. Within the next few days, we will provide a means for the person who uploaded a kit to opt in for that kit if they choose to do so.
So,
What say you about that?
well, good for them.
Yes, but I would rather it would be an opt-out thing. Now people have to actively go in and opt in.
Oh, I see.
As opposed to, and there are kits that have been there forever and nobody has logged in years. And so they don't even know about this and they don't know that they're,
Right.
they don't have the opportunity because this is on the page. So if they didn't see it, if they haven't logged in, they don't even know it's an issue.
I see. And then perhaps if the police were going to use that sample, it'll be a smaller sample for them to go through. Of the shared.
It'd be a smaller amount.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be a far less
Right.
samples to match with.
Well,
yes.
and in the bigger picture, I'm kind of glad that there's a discussion about this and that, we're sort of fumbling our way through.
It's very new.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all new technology and it brings up issues that perhaps were not thought about before. And so good for everybody for doing it in good faith and trying to make it better,
Yeah.
without offending somebody or without, offending somebody's sensibilities about their privacy or how they feel about their own.
I guess it's still, people keep like saying, well, I for one am opting in because I don't, most people are saying that they don't care. However, the few people that do care or that care about protocol, and it's important to them that they have informed consent.
Right.
So I don't know. I would, the only thing that bothers me is that I'm wondering how Parabon is handling this. And I'm wondering if this is in a response to a possible lawsuit that somebody had decided to file against GEDmatch. GEDmatch has no money. It's a free site.
Right.
It's a couple guys. So it might be that. But
It's almost always on the basis of a lawsuit. Don't you think that's
I think
why
everything
policies
has to do with
changed,
that. Yeah.
I remember I was working at a place where suddenly we were told, oh, you can't hug your coworkers or any of the guests that come in. I mean, and I thought,
Uncle
no,
Charlie.
no. But what was funny about this was like that a lot of the people that worked there, this was a restaurant where a lot of people had been coming there for years and had become friends, and they would come in and hug the staff because they were like family. They were coming in every week, and so everybody thought there must have been some kind of lawsuit because there's no way.
No, yeah, they wouldn't just come up with that for no reason.
Yeah, they came up with a slogan: friendly, not familiar.
Was this Friendlies?
No, it was not
okay.
Friendlies. How do you remember Friendlies?
I don't know. I don't remember Friendlies. I mean, I know that there was something called a Friendlies, but I've never seen one.
Oh my God! Because that's a New England thing. I mean, okay, so folks, Friendlies was a restaurant in New England and maybe
Was it
elsewhere.
only New England?
I'm not sure. I grew up in New England, and I know that when I moved away from there, I never saw one again. But it was kind of like a Denny's, but they had great ice cream.
I was going to say it wasn't an ice cream
Yeah,
place?
they had it. I mean, I think they might have started as an ice cream, stand and became a restaurant. But man, they had what they called a fribble, which was a friendly fribble, which was a milkshake, or what we called a frap back in Massachusetts. And boy, do I miss the friendly fribble.
So anyway, yeah, I would like to hear, I've yet to hear anything from Cece. I would like to hear what her take on this is, because that could very much be a problem for Parabon.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
That's really going to narrow down the opportunities. But what can happen is that law enforcement may be forced to get more, what are they called?
Court orders?
Yes, court orders.
Right.
There's another word for it, whatever. Because court orders can get
That trumps
past
your
anything.
that trumps your privacy issues,
Yes.
right? In other words, they could go if they were to get a court order or a warrant or whatever
A
it
warrant.
may be.
Yeah, exactly.
They could go and look at all
and
that stuff.
Maybe that's what'll happen. Maybe that'll just be standard operating procedure.
If that's the case, then why didn't they just do that in the first place and not cause this whole ruckus about, privacy issues?
Because it takes time and money.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes time and money, but I mean, they're trying to catch somebody who was a violent criminal, so, get off the stick and do it.
Get off the stick.
That's an old
What does
fashioned.
that mean? What stick?
That means I don't know. It means get moving.
What stick?
I don't know what the origin of get off the stick is.
Okay,
but
I'm gonna. No, I wouldn't.
No,
I was gonna,
oh my
gonna
God.
Look it up.
This
This
Julie.
is the day of surfing the internet for answers.
This episode is now called Julie Googles. It's like Mr. Peepers. Julie Googles. Julie Googles.
Julie does Google. All right. Here's I'm gonna have a new segment, and I'm gonna call it Julie.
What's the new segment called?
Aw, I miss Renee.
Oh, I know. That was
it's
such
gonna be called
a sad part. That was such a sad imitation of what Renee used to do.
There you go.
We miss you, Renee.
I miss you, Nay. So this is going to be called Julie's Believe It or Not.
Julie's Believe It or Not.
Believe it or not. I'm going to start telling people stories of things that are happening in cases that I'm working, because every single one has a twist that is you wouldn't believe unless it was happening to you. And it's happening to me.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not. And this one is actually heartwarming.
Oh,
I'm going to start
good.
with a heartwarming one.
Warm
it's really
my cold
sweet.
heart, Julie.
Yeah, your cold, cold heart. Okay, so I've been helping this gentleman who was born in the early 60s in Miami. And from the DNA, his paternal side, well, I assumed it was his paternal side because the maternal side seemed to be Scandinavian. So he was probably a Jewish gentleman living in Miami at the time.
What a shock. We Jews love Southern Florida.
Love the heat. And he told me, I hadn't actually seen his adoption records, but he told me that his name was Baby and then a Scandinavian name. I won't say what the name is.
Baby. Why baby?
Because
oftentimes
they don't have names when they're
so they say, you're Baby Johnson or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I was Baby. Well, no, I was Katrina, but I would have been Baby Price if my mother hadn't
I see what
named
you're
me.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they also said that she had been in a relationship with an older man who was probably married.
Oh, all right.
That was on the papers. Anyway, so as far as the name goes, I always take them and I look for them, but I take them with a grain of salt because people lie. And people lied all the time, even on birth certificates.
Right.
So you take it, you keep it in the back of your head, you do a search for it in the matches, but it's never, I would say half and half, it's true. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
I like those odds. I'll take them.
Sure. So I worked for days, and I found the connection. I found a connection that was based in Illinois and Indiana, even though he was born in Florida. And one of his matches, I think it was a second cousin, had there were a few that matched his line, so I worked a quick and easy tree up through his line, and I found a connection to that name.
Oh, okay.
And I worked it using other trees, and it took me a few hours, but I got down to where there was one woman who would be the correct age, and she was an only child, and I got DNA matches to both of her parents.
Wow.
So that's pretty conclusive.
It is
right
pretty.
there.
It sounds like it.
Yes. But I still, it was a little, the closest was a second cousin match. When it's a second cousin match, I sometimes want more proof because coincidences happen.
Yeah, sure.
So I called this gentleman. I asked him to send me the adoption records so I could, see if he missed anything. And I looked at it, and they not only said his last name was this name, his mother's name was actually in there. And it was the exact same name that I found.
Really?
Yes.
Weird.
I guess he'd never noticed that it gave her first name, but that was the name. So I found her, and I proved it by looking at stuff that he already had.
So he could have done that on his own, is what you're saying?
Well, he wouldn't have found her because she was very hard to find.
But her name was on it.
Her name was on it, but she's not. Now, having found her, I found very little on her. What I did find, though, was because of this second cousin match, I reached out to him, and he is second cousins to my client. Their mothers were first cousins, and they were very close when they were children.
Okay.
So he had memories of her. And he had all of his mother's old stuff in his attic, and he went up there, and he got a bunch of pictures, a bunch of funeral announcements.
She had passed on.
Yeah, she passed on in 2001.
All right,
I didn't get to that. But he told me, she never married. She was a career woman. There was, my mother used to make fun of her because she was a spinster and a lighthearted.
So you were able to get some information. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I gave all that to my client, and he was overwhelmed. He had pictures of his mother. There was one of her having her confirmation. I don't know how old you are when you have a confirmation, 13?
Something like that.
Something like that. But he looked at it, and he said, "My God, that's my face." I've never seen him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was very cool.
So if they joked about her being a spinster, then she obviously never married and had other children.
Right.
That we know of. Yes.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So he, and then he noticed this one note that was also in there that was written by somebody and sent to the family, I guess, that said, this woman died on this date. She was a lovely person. I spent time with her. And, she said a few things about her. Then she said friend and caregiver, and then she gave her name. And so my client said, "What about her? Why don't you find her?" I was like, "Well, okay." So actually his wife found her, but they couldn't find a recent number. So I found a recent number, and I called her. And this was 20 years ago. She had been a caregiver when she was living at home later in life, and she came in once or twice a week, and she helped her with her banking and stuff like that.
All right.
And when she moved into the nursing home, she helped her move out, and she packed things up with her. And she said, there was a vase that she had, and she kept saying, "I want you to have something. Why don't you take something, anything, because I'm getting rid of all this stuff anyway." And there was a vase, and she said, "This came from my parents, and my father brought it from Sweden because they were Swedish, and I've had it since it's been in the family since before I was born. Why don't you take this?" So she took it, and she told me about it, and she said, "I wonder if he would like it."
Oh my God!
I know.
People are so generous.
I'm getting chills thinking about it.
People can be so generous.
I see the worst and the best of people in this.
Right.
It's incredible. So I I asked her if she would mind if I had him call her, and she said she would be delighted. So I called him. I gave her the number. I didn't tell him about the vase, and let her tell him.
Oh, that was generous of you.
I wanted him to hear it from her.
Right.
So he wrote me back and said, "This is, I not only do I have pictures of my mother, I have something that has been in that family for years.
Right. Something that she owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a crystal vase. I mean,
And he's the rightful owner of that.
absolutely. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah,
That was such a great story.
It's a great story, Julie.
Yeah.
And it makes me think. I wish that mother knew that her baby has that she was able to pass that on.
Oh, and that's another
indirectly.
thing. Yes,
through you.
Oh, I know. I forgot to say the caregiver mentioned, because I said, do you know about any relationships she ever had? And she said, well, there was talk. I believe she told me that she was in love with a man for many years, but he was married and was not going to leave his wife.
So there you go. Wow.
So, and she was also a very successful career woman.
Well, sure. She if she wasn't married and didn't have any kids, she was able to do that back in the 60s or whatever.
Strange how that happens, isn't it? So anyway, that was my Julie's Believe It or Not of this week, and I thought it was such a great story. I wanted to share it with everybody.
I love that story, and I love this idea of Julie's Believe It or Not, and I'm glad that it is a new segment for us on episode 54 to start something new.
Yay!
On that note,
let's take a break.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Genes with Julie Dixon-Jackson and Richard Castle. That's me.
It's that time of the week. Story time.
I love story time. Apparently, everyone does.
Apparently so.
Well, no, you know what? I might have just told you this, but a friend of mine started listening to the podcast.
You just told me this.
Yes. Well, but one of her things that she loves the most is the fact that we serialize these stories over several weeks. And I mean, your story, of course, at the beginning of this, but the other people's stories. And she also said she liked our rapport, whatever that is.
There is no rapport at all. I miss Renee. Where did that come from?
You're going to be sitting across from an empty microphone next week, Missy.
I was going to say, I was saving that for when you said something mean, and you didn't even say anything mean.
And you wouldn't have to wait very long, because you know I will.
It always comes.
But now it's going to be nasty.
Dang it.
So what's next up on Storytime?
Next up on Storytime is part 2 of the delightful Lori Wagner Knisely.
Great.
Of Hallmark card fame.
Oh, yeah, that's what she works for Hallmark.
Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yes.
oh, that's for Hallmark. She goes, yeah, I work there. So this is part 2. When last we left off, she had just discovered her father.
Wow.
I think that's all we need to say about that.
Well, let's listen in.
Let's roll it.
And then I see that he is in someone else's family tree as a husband. So I immediately reach out to her, and I tell her that I have just recently found out that Robert is my father through this DNA match, and told her when I was born and he had no idea about me and that it was long before they ever met. I don't want to disrupt her life or cause any problems, but was wondering if she could help give me some information. And it took her about 3 weeks to respond back.
Ugh.
And she said, agonizing.
Yeah, it is.
And she responded back and said, yes, Robert and I were married for 4 years. We had 2 daughters. And then he just up and left us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she did confirm that he was in the Coast Guard and was stationed most of the time in Alaska, Washington, and Oregon.
Okay.
And that his mother was dead, his dad was dead. He had no living family. But she might be able to send me some pictures.
But he had a couple daughters.
He had a couple daughters.
Okay.
Oh, and he did say after 4 years, he up and left and then died when the youngest was 6 years old.
Okay.
So immediately shared that information with Susanna since they were married and born in California. She went bingo. California birth certificates are online. We can find them.
California birth certificates are online?
They're birth index records.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, birth index records.
I got really excited there for a second.
So we were able to immediately find the youngest daughter because we knew if he died when she was 6 and we knew when he died, we counted back. So we were able to find the youngest half-sibling, and we found her and her mom on Facebook. I have Facebook stalked them quite a bit. Couldn't find the older sister. I just recently, a couple of weeks ago, did some more searching, and it's because the mom's maiden name was missing one letter. So
okay.
I had to, but I eventually found her, and then also found her on Facebook. So I did respond back to the wife and say, hey, thank you for responding to me, giving me this information. Pictures would be great. Here's my address. And I haven't heard back from her. Okay. And I wanted to give her some time and everything. That was in October of 2017.
Okay.
And then what happened is that in November, Susanna and I were having our lunch, and we were going to start building a mirror tree with my birth mom, with the matches that I thought were my birth mom. You know, we were like, let's work on a mirror tree. And then she says, you know what? You're 6 weeks out from getting your original birth certificate. Why don't you wait? And I says, oh, okay, let's see if I get it. You know, there was a big event here in the state capital of Missouri celebrating the new law. They were supposed to be handing out hundreds of birth certificates on January 2nd.
Uh-huh.
And they only handed out 21 original birth certificates on January 2nd. And I was one of the 21 who got mine.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Was it like a lottery? You didn't know who was going to...
Well, here's... It turned out to be that way, but I did have a slight advantage. I'm part of an adoption support group here in Missouri.
Okay.
And the people in that support group were part of the adoption army that helped get this law passed.
Gotcha.
So they told me, here, fill out your form October 1st. Enough in advance that I was able to receive it on that day.
Gotcha. You had like a little bit of insider information.
Yes.
Nice.
Because I would say about half of the people that got theirs that day were part of that adoption army. And then there was me and a few others. So I got that. It was a very emotional day. I've never been so emotionally exhausted before. And they presented it to me up on stage, and I realized that she gave me a name. She named me as Marie.
Okay.
And so I come back and I sit down, and I've got all these people congratulating me. And my husband says, here, can I see it for a few minutes? And I says, well, okay, I guess I'll let it out of my sight. He turns around. I'm powering up my laptop to start checking Ancestry. And he turns around and he says, I found her in Dallas, Texas. And I go, how'd you find her? My husband, who not do computers well.
Wow.
And with her married name. I was like, how did you find her? He goes, well, this is her. It's got to be her. I was like, well, I don't know that. So then I took a picture of me holding the birth certificate, and I posted it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I says, I'm looking for you. I hope we can meet. And I give her name. That was shared over 400 times in the next couple of days. And within 10 minutes, my phone started blowing up with text messages, emails, Facebook messages of people providing information.
Oh my gosh, it worked.
It did work, and the first one to contact me was my niece, and she found the marriage license for my mom here in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
8 months after I was born, and it confirmed who my husband found in Texas. So I had people sending me all kinds of information that just kept confirming that, In the meantime, my friend, Susanna, she was working her magic in Ancestry for me, and I knew she would. And I met a search angel down there at this event, and she came to me, and she says, give me your birth certificate. We become friends, and her name's Stephanie, and she does some of her searching. She goes, well, she's a nurse practitioner down in Texas. And I go, okay. She had 1 year of nursing school when she had me. And she had hoped to continue her nursing career. And I says, my husband found her in Texas. My niece found this, blah, blah, blah. She goes, yep, that's her. So there was a lot of other things. We had a 2-hour drive home. I get home and my friend Susanna finally texts me and she goes, I found your mom on Ancestry. She's an active member but has not done DNA. She has 2 public trees, one for her husband and one for her, that are very extensive. And she says, and I had said that little spreadsheet that I'd put together of these common DNA matches that I'd been working on for 2 years.
Yeah.
I just told Susanna a couple of months before, I think there's something with this Dib family.
Okay.
I think my mom is somehow related through that. And her text message ended with, it's the Dib family. So I'd taken the day off work, but she was at work. And so I call her up and she walks me through. Here's your mom. Here's her sign on. Here's her family tree. Her sister and brother was listed. And, we confirmed. So on January 3rd, 2018, I sent her a message through Ancestry that simply said, I'm doing genealogy work. And through DNA, it shows that I'm related through the Dib family. And I went down the family line up to her grandparents and then said, I'm looking for, and I gave her name. I'm looking for more information on, and I gave my bio mom's name. Mm-hmm. Would you be able to help me with this? 2.5 hours later, she responded. She goes, well, her first name's Paula. Well, I'm Paula. How can I help you? We must be related if you're investigating the Dib family. Uh-huh. I was just 20 minutes of screaming and crying and jumping up and down. And I call Susanna. I'm like, what do I do next? And she goes, I don't know. Holy search angel, shouldn't she know what she So I call Stephanie and I walk Stephanie through everything. And I had given her access to my Ancestry account while I was down there. So she double checks everything. And we construct a real simple message back that, yes, we are related through DNA. And I was born December 22nd, 1967 in Kansas City, Missouri, and don't know much about my birth, the time of my birth and everything. And so she says, that way I'm not being too intrusive. I'm letting her figure it out, and I send the message.
It's a good way. It's good to kind of go around the outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
She'll know.
Yeah. She'll know. If she knows, she knows.
So I get nothing but crickets for 2 days.
Oh.
For 2 days. I return back to work, and I don't even know how I worked those 2 days. And Susanna just sits a couple of rows down, and she keeps checking. Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? And at lunch, I go out and I check the messages on Ancestry, just seeing, can I tell? Did she read it? Mm-hmm. Did she see it? And I see a little triangle with an exclamation point. Oh. And it says, this Ancestry member is no longer accepting messages.
No.
I was like, I go walking over to Susanna. I like, you need to look at this. I don't know what this means.
Oh, I do.
She has blocked me.
Oh.
So I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah.
And through getting my original birth certificate, though, I have found all of these people here at work or even on my friends list that were adoptees themselves or even mothers.
Right.
And so they all tell me, write her a letter. And even my search angel, Stephanie, I told her, she says, write her a letter. I'll get you her address. So I'm also in school, and my school schedule at that time was just crazy. And I says, I'm going to have to wait until this 8-week class is over. So I wait. And early March, I sit down and I write this letter out. This is March 2018. And I include all the information that shows that how I know it's her. I find some pictures of me of different ages throughout my life, and I send them to Walgreens to print out. And I wait because I've got to wait for Walgreens to print these pictures. Mm-hmm. And Also, kind of a key thing, for Christmas, I gave my children and my husband DNA kits. And both of my kids live out of state. And they were back for Christmas. And my daughter and my husband did their DNA kit immediately. And I sent it off before the first of the year. My son forgot his, and he had to come back home 3 weeks later, and he did his. So there was a gap between my daughter and my son in doing the DNA. Okay. So as I'm preparing this letter, my daughter's DNA comes in through Ancestry. Okay. And I look at it, and I'm looking at some stuff, and then we couldn't see names. There was a glitch with Ancestry. So the next week, I show Susanna, hey, look, my daughter's DNA comes in, and she points out, she goes, do you see how your daughter has a mother button and a father button when you look at their relative DNA matches? And that's because my husband has tested and I have tested.
Right.
So I can click on that mother button, and it'll show me all the matches my daughter and I have in common. That comes from my line.
Right.
And the same for her father. So a couple of weeks, March 11th, I had a question on my daughter's DNA, and I pull it up, and I was going to ask Susanna about it. I pull it up. I forget to click on my daughter's DNA, and instead I click on mine, but don't realize it. And I'm like, what happened to my daughter's father button? Where did that go? Why is he not showing here? Why does she only have a mother button? Then I look at the name, and it's my DNA.
Okay.
And I look down, and my mom has tested with Ancestry.
Oh.
So I go running down to Susanna's office. I can't even speak. I'm crying. I'm blubbering. And I'm just like, follow. Oh. She comes running down. Everybody's popping up like, go first. Go on.
I can just visualize it.
Yes. And so she looks at it. She helps calm me down. And we look at it and find out that my mom must have, right after I contacted her, requested a kit because she created a second account for the DNA on January 7th.
Okay.
And then this came in on March 11th. It had just come in.
Right.
And this DNA match came in on March 11th. And so I was just like, okay, she's testing. She's making sure that I know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
So we decided to still send the letter. I made just a postscript. I finally got the pictures back, and I made a postscript. Hey, I wrote this letter before the DNA results, but I still want you to hear everything explained. Take it to the post office, have them registered mail so I can track it, restrictive signature to where only she can sign for it. I pay like $25 to send this card.
Right.
The perfect card to put all this information in.
Well, of course, it's from Hallmark.
Yes.
Hallmark's getting a lot of time on the show today.
And it was just I was like, no words, perfect picture,
Yeah.
And I mail it. And I'm tracking it. It takes forever to get down to, she is now in San Antonio, takes forever to get down there. Then it takes forever to get to her. And then I stop getting updates.
Uh-oh. But wait, there's more.
Oh, no, really?
This is a 3-part.
Oh, my God, 3 parts.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So we're going to find out what happened after what you just said next week.
I hate waiting.
Patience, grasshopper.
Yeah, folks, I don't get to listen to all of these until Julie gives them to me. So I'm with you. I'm still listening and waiting for the next part.
That is
I'm not
true.
I'm not like pretending I don't know the end. I don't know the end.
He doesn't know the end.
Is this the end?
Nope.
Of us?
Oh, yeah, this is the end of us. Sure.
The end of us.
Yes, let's get out of here.
In that case, I am Richard Castle. I am a songwriter, musician, composer, and you can listen to my stuff at richardcastle.com. That's my website, or follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs.
I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. You can find me on the Twitter at Jules Jackson. All one word, lowercase, 2 O's in Jules. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Cutoff Jeans Pod. You can find the podcast on Facebook, Cutoff Jeans Podcast. It's a closed page, but you can ask to join and tell me a fun story. Hey guys, if you are going to be in Southern California at the Southern California Genealogy Jamboree, May 31st through the 2nd at the LA Marriott Hotel in Burbank, on the Saturday, the 1st, that's the only day I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at the birth parent finder table. So if you happen to be there, come on over and say hi to me.
Julie loves to meet new people, especially people who might be fans of the podcast.
Yeah, it's always nice to meet people who are fans.
If you hate the podcast, stay away.
Please stay away.
And stop listening.
What do you hate listening? What am I, the Bachelorette?
I hope people aren't hate tweeting this as they, what did that stupid Rich say to Julie now?
I do. I hate watch The Bachelorette.
Do you really?
Yeah. Well, okay. I hate watch the first 2 episodes and then I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, but hate tweeting is worse because you're sharing your hate with everyone else.
Yeah, that's harsh. I did that, though, about The Bachelorette, too.
You know what I don't hate?
What?
I don't hate our slogan.
Neither do I. And you know what it is?
No.
The truth is in your genes.